Hello, WestfordCAT. My name is Sean Kelly. I am currently a board member for Westford Community Access Television, and I also sit on the Bylaw and Policy Committee for the organization. Now, I'm here today to do a presentation regarding some proposed changes that we have made to the bylaws. And now the membership will have to vote on these. So the purpose of this presentation is to allow you folks to see what we've done without having to weed through 20 pages of redlined edits and the like. Okay, so let's get right into it. So again, this presentation is regarding several edits that we have made to the current bylaws, which I believe were last edited and voted on in 2012. So we've made some serious edits since then. All right. So in terms of this presentation, I'm going to be covering a variety of issues. First, who's on the committee, how we as a committee and as a board got here, the goals of the committee as we went through the bylaws and actually made changes, a discussion of the changes that we've made. And when we do get to the discussion part, I will let you know that we're not going to cover every little change that we've made here, but we wanted to have something concise that the members could see as to the large changes that we have made. After I get through a discussion of the changes, I'll hit on where we're headed, give you a timeline as to where we're headed, and then lastly, if there were any questions. Now, this isn't being done live, so I can't take any of your questions now, but I'll leave my contact information and the WestfordCAT contact information in case you as a viewer do have questions as to what was changed. All right, the bylaw committee. There were several members to it. It was Marilyn Cattler, who's a board member of Westford Community Access Television, Christy Bates, who's the current president of the organization, Paul Fassbender, and myself, Sean Kelly. How we got here. The current bylaws are unclear on some issues, particularly where it has to do with the membership and what their roles and responsibilities are. So we were analyzing what could be done to give the membership some articulated and written powers that the members could easily follow. Also, the rules themselves were quite antiquated, so we tried to bring them into the 21st century. Now, the committee itself started meeting in September of 2020. So we've been meeting for approximately the last 8 months. We've presented to the board several times and welcomed feedback from them. And that's how we got here. In terms of the goals of the amendments, when we first met, we outlined what we thought needed to be changed in the current bylaws, and we had these guiding principles behind us. And these goals and guiding principles were to address the concerns of the membership, that they didn't feel like they had a voice as compared to the board, that we wanted to clarify what everyone's roles and responsibilities were. So we wanted to clarify what the employees of the corporation were versus the board, versus the officers, versus the members themselves. We also wanted to make sure that the bylaws were consistent amongst the bylaws themselves, current policies that we have, practices that are followed by the organization, the articles of incorporation, which is something that's filed with the Secretary of State, and then also the memorandum of understanding, which is a contract that WestfordCAT currently holds between the organization and the town. We also wanted to make sure that there was uniformity between our bylaws and Robert's Rules, which is a book that essentially governs parliamentary procedure that many small organizations and large organizations, but small organizations like ourselves follow. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that this document was not all just legal jargon and something that you needed a Juris Doctorate to follow. We wanted to make sure that it was easy to comprehend and that the members and board members could use it themselves. Okay. So before I get into the specific changes that we have made to the document, I will say again that this presentation does not cover every minute change that we have made. Okay. We have tried to hit all the high points. There were some grammatical, semantics, changes in punctuation and the like that are not discussed here. Okay, so if you have specific questions and want to see specifically what was changed in the bylaws, I would suggest that you look at the document itself, which is going to be provided with this presentation. All right, so let's get into what was changed. Article 1, it's now called Incorporation Details. It's basically an introduction to what the corporation is and the like. We've added a fiscal year of January 1 to December 31. That has been something that the company has always followed. We've just articulated it in the document itself. We've added a principal location for the organization, which, as many of you know, is 487 Groton Road in Westford. And then lastly, for readability purposes, we've combined Article 1 and formerly Article 2 into this one article that is now just incorporation details. Article 2, which has to do with membership. We spent substantial time on this particular article. There was a lot of edits made to it, again, because one of our goals was to give some powers back to the members. So much of the previous section was removed except for proxy voting, which, as many of you know, has to do with if an individual is sent to a membership meeting in another one's stead. In terms of a language that we've added language that allows the board to create categories of membership. So the way that the bylaws are currently written, there are two potential voters, right? There's a individual voter, and then there's a corporate corporate member. Okay. By allowing the board to create categories of membership, the idea was to get as many people involved in the company and organization as possible. Okay, so that could be the board could theoretically create, let's say, a household membership. So a household membership would, let's say, a family, everyone who's at, Smith Lane, for example, everyone who's at 5 Smith Lane, that will be one voting member. Okay. We've also created a distinction between voting and non-voting members. The idea here is not to exclude anyone, to be as inclusive as possible, but that you have to have some tie to Westford to be a voting member. So if you're an organization, that's okay if the voting member of the organization does not live in Westford, but the organization must have at least a location in Westford. Anyone, theoretically a resident from Chelmsford, could become a member of WestfordCAT. However, they will not be a voting member unless they own property or if their organization is in Westford. Not necessarily own property, but have a residence in Westford. Okay, and so those non-voting members are for the folks and entities that are located outside of town. The board itself. We've spent some time in this section in Article 3 articulating what the board's powers are. Up front, we've put some guiding principles, and the guiding principles are supposed to guide the board to be as transparent and inclusive as possible, particularly with the membership, but also with the town, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a nonprofit that serves the town. Also in Article 3, we've capped the amount of boards at 9 individuals. Now, of those 9 individuals, there are 6 elected directors. Okay, so there's the 3 liaison directors, which are Neshoba, the school committee, and also the select board. The other 3 members are elected directors. The idea was to stagger their terms, so not each year 6 individuals are carrying over. So they're each 2-year terms, and 3 of them will be elected on an odd year, 3 of them will be elected on an even year. We've also added language that allows board members to be removed not for cause. So that can be done by a two-third a two-third majority of either the board or the membership. So prior to this, the bylaws require that a board member be removed for cause, and that cause was if they missed meetings, essentially. The board members may now be able to be removed for no cause by the membership or by the board themselves, as long as there is a 2/3 vote of the quorum, and we'll get into what the quorum is later. Also in Article 3, we've created what's called a nominating committee. The nominating committee is a committee that will convene under the WestfordCAT umbrella that will consist of 3 members. It will have 1 board member and 2 non-board members. And the purpose of this committee is to recommend at least 1 candidate for each open director seat each year. So if there's 3 spots that are up for that are open in a particular year, this nominating committee will ideally elect 3 prospective candidates for that. Now, the nominating committee will be elected each year at the member meeting. So as of now, our member meeting is set for June 23rd. So if these bylaws are voted on by the membership by then theoretically at our June 23rd annual member meeting, we will be voting on a nominating committee of 3 individuals. The meetings of the board. We've added some language regarding notice as to where notice has to occur. So notice can occur by posting now on the WestfordCAT website or via email. Notice must be posted 3 days in advance to the membership, so the membership has time to know where and when the meeting is. And we've also brought it into a post-COVID world, which allows for video participation of the members, or I'm sorry, of the board members. Now, the meetings of the members, which is different, right? The board members meet monthly unless they call an additional meeting, but there's also meetings of the members, and there's two types of meetings of the members. There's special meetings and there's the annual meeting. The annual meeting is what occurs monthly and is a chance for the membership to do a variety of things, to have a presentation done regarding what the company's financials are and the like. But there's also a special meeting, which can be convened by either the board or by the members themselves. So a special meeting, again, which can be convened by the members, if the board if the board does not select a time and place, the members may choose one after 20 days. And the idea is if the members call a meeting and for whatever reason the board doesn't select one, it allows for the members to convene a time and a place for it. The location can be held remotely. And regarding the annual meeting, there needs to be at least a 1-month notice, which is put out prior so the membership can attend that meeting. Now, for the annual meetings and the special member meetings, they're usually run by the president of WestfordCAT. Now, for the special member meetings, if it is called by the members may choose a member of their choosing to run that meeting. So it doesn't have to be convened by the president of WestfordCAT, but it can be. Also regarding special member meetings, it needs to be posted 10 days in advance. So there needs to be 10 days notice to the members for a special member meeting. Now at these member meetings, to have a quorum, we have increased what the quorum is. and it has to be at least 10% of the members or 15 individuals, whichever is less, okay, to have a quorum. Regarding Article 6, which has to do with officers, we've made some additions here. An officer, the officers that we have right now are the president, the clerk, and the treasurer. And the officer term limit is limited to 3 terms in office, unless it is approved by the membership. So the idea is to present 1 or 2 individuals from essentially controlling the corporation or organization for an extended period of time, unless the members want that individual to do so. Also regarding this article, we've added duties to the clerk and treasurer, specifically to articulate what the clerk and treasurer are already required to do under the laws of the Commonwealth. We've also added language which allows for a officer to be removed as long as and the officer is entitled to a certain due process, which would be a 10-day notice of the meeting, and they're attended to be at the removal meeting. Committees, which is now Article 7. So prior to us making amendments to this, there was only 2 standing committees within the WestfordCAT bylaws. There was the Finance and the ByLaw Committee. Now, there was this executive committee, which is comprised of the clerk, treasurer, and president, which can convene on short notice. And essentially, we've removed that executive committee, not removed them outright, but added it to Article 2 regarding the board. We haven't increased or decreased that executive committee's powers, but we have kept it in case the board does have to take certain actions on a short notice. The standing committees that we now have in our proposed amendments. There's the Finance Committee, the Community Outreach, which most of us would know as the fundraising arm of Westford Community Access Television. There's the Legislative Committee, there's the Technology Committee, and there's also the Bylaw and Policy Committee. So we've also added language to make these committees more inclusive of members and of just town folks, individuals in the town at large. So the idea was to make sure that these, or at least try to attempt to have these committees not be just stacked with board members, but to include other individuals. And we've also added descriptions for future boards and members so they know what each committee should be comprised of and how they should be acting. The executive director and staff, which is now Article 8. So prior to us making amendments to this, the executive director, which is what we've called the position for quite some time now, was referred to as the manager of the corporation. So we've changed any reference to manager to the executive director, so there's no confusion. Now, the executive director is to be appointed by the board. That's currently held by Sarah Fletcher, who's our executive director. And the executive director is appointed by the board. However, if there's a lengthy vacancy for the executive director, let's say that they resign, and obviously the president of the corporation may not be able to absorb the roles and responsibilities of the executive director. So the bylaws as they stand now, as we're proposing them to the membership, would allow for the president to appoint an interim executive director. Article 11. So before I get into Article 11, I will say that we haven't made any substantial edits to Article 9, which is indemnification, Article 10, which is liquidation or dissolution, and Article 12, which has to do with amendments. We've made next to no edits to those articles. Now, regarding Article 11, which is the miscellaneous provisions, we've removed language regarding the corporate seal, as it seems antiquated and not relevant to anything that we do right now. We've also allowed for the corporation, the board, the members, and any of its subcommittees to meet via video meetings. So again, to bring that into a post-COVID world. Lastly, we have specifically articulated that Robert's rules are supposed to govern meetings of the board members and meetings of the executive committee. Meetings of the board members, meetings of the members, and meetings of the executive committee. However, it doesn't necessarily apply to the other committees. So the legislative, the bylaw, the fundraiser, the community outreach aspect, or even the nominating committee. And the idea is just to make this as easy as possible for those subcommittees to convene, and they usually have smaller numbers than, let's say, our membership meetings or our board member meetings. And again, for those at home who don't know what Robert's Rules is, it's a it's a book of parliamentary procedure that basically outlines what organizations should be doing and how they should be running their meetings in terms of minutes, decorum, things like that. Okay, so that wraps up changes that we've made to the bylaws. And again, there'll be proposed edits, and when we send this out to the membership, and ideally it will be posted on the website, we'll have the previous bylaws from 2012 that are currently controlling us alongside our edits that we've made. Okay, so where we are headed. On April 15th, we made this presentation to the board of directors and received good feedback as to what we've proposed here today. Now, tonight on May 6th, this is being recorded in the afternoon of May 6th, the board itself will vote on these bylaws. Presuming that that gets approved, then we are holding a special member meeting to vote specifically on the bylaws. Now, the bylaws under the current 2012 bylaws require that a meeting of the members be convened to vote on the bylaws. So we will vote on that on May 20th, and assuming that we have a quorum on that date, and assuming that the membership votes to allow for these amendments, then our bylaws, these proposed bylaws, will now become the governing document for the WestfordCAT Corporation. And then we'll have our annual meeting on June 23rd of this year, and that will be our first meeting where the new bylaws will govern our corporation. So ideally at that meeting, we will be nominating a nominating committee and voting on some new members for the corporation. Or, I'm sorry, voting on some new board members for the corporation. Okay. So that about wraps it up. I do want to give a special shout out to the other members of the bylaw and policy committee who sit on it with myself. Again, that's to Marilyn Cattler, Christy Bates, and Paul Fassbender, who've all put in a tremendous amount of time and work into creating the edits that we've put forward here today. Now, this isn't being held live, so if you do have questions, please email westfordcat@westfordcat.org, or you can reach out to me directly, and my email address is skely, and that's at westfordcat.org. Or you can just reach out to your favorite board member, and hopefully they'll have the right answer or be able to put you in touch with one of us, myself, Marilyn, Paul, or Christy. Okay. Well, that's it. I thank you for your time. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you folks at the special member meeting on May 20th and on the annual member meeting on June 23rd. Thanks again. Take care.